grade 1.
Can you repeat that? I can't hear you.
Yep. Leah Remington, grade 3 at EDS. Allie Kimball, grade 1 at Somerset. Scott Dion Cook at EDS. Yasmin Tezel at Tech 3 Special Ed, Spastic Valley. Jackie Badger at Tech 1 Special Ed, Somerset. Add staff nominations. E would be Emily Dunlap, music at Comus Regional Middle School. Crystal Westcott, special ed teacher at Comus Regional High School. Staff appointments: Sue Irish as Tech 3 and Title at Somerset. Amanda Pearl at Tech 3 Special Ed at EDS. Transfers: Tammy Hill at Tech 1 at Tech 3 and Special Ed at EDS. Andy Pyeson, grade 4, from the grant position to full-time grade 3 at EDS. Patrick Code, Ed Tech 3, Special Ed, Nokomis Regional High School, to the program at the new program at EDS. And Laura Bissell, grade 2 to grade 1 at Somerset. And she also, I think, was a nomination and wanted to switch into that. And we also add assistant principal at Spastic Valley Elementary School. Gretchen. Thank you.
Very good. Let's move on.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Approval of minutes of the May 9th meeting.
So moved. Second.
That is a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? None? All those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you. And also the June 6th special board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Yep. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Very good, it passes. Public comment. If there is anybody in the audience that would like to address the board, this is the time to do so. We'd like to have you state your name and the town that you live in, and we'll go from there.
Do you want to go now or do my report?
Whichever you like.
Go ahead, Dr. Roll.
Okay. The district is trying our first community read here. So this is, the book that's been selected here is Sardines. It's a community read open to all children and adults. There are free copies at Heartland Public Library, Newport Cultural Center, and also some businesses throughout the district. Students, local businesses, community members, groups, parents, grandparents, neighbors, and friends are invited to join us as we strengthen our community through reading. We'll be providing opportunities to come together through the summer to discuss the text and engage in activities and programs connected to the book. We have an account on Instagram, Nokomis Library, #ReadWithRSU19. It tells you there where you can pick up free copies as well, any place where there are posters also. The author is going to come from this book for a visit on August 2nd at 11 at the Newport Cultural Center. And keeping with the community of this, the spirit of this one book, one community, the books were purchased from an independent bookseller. So theory behind this is we're trying to work to build a stronger community, one book at a time. And we're just inviting board members who would like to read it to take a copy tonight. And if you want one, if you don't mind, I might be able to snag a picture of some board members with the books that we can put on our Instagram account as well.
Everybody better pick up a book.
Yeah. I know, and then I looked and I thought, I don't actually know if I have enough copies here, but if we don't, then I will definitely get you more.
That's very nice.
That's awesome.
We've got a few over at the office too.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Moving along. Communications. Any? Okay, superintendent communications, no? Report.
Yeah, I'll keep mine pretty brief. You know, as you know, we were pretty crazy at the end of the year. It was a great graduation and multiple events at the end of the year. Today we had bus inspections, which didn't start out all that great, and I went over and met with the state police. It was very informative, though, and I don't know if any of you know, Glenn's our our second mechanic over at the bus garage, he did get his license to inspect, so he's learning a lot. It wasn't his fault that a lot of them didn't pass today. You'd be amazed at some of the things that will pull a bus off the road, and basically what happens is if they pull the bus off the road, all you need to do is document the fact that you corrected whatever the action was. It could be anything as simple as not having a spill kit or not having your fire extinguisher secured, to more major things, to rust underneath the bus, lights that don't work and those types of things. But Glenn has that list. I will work also with the bus drivers to make sure they're doing some more safety checks when they walk around their buses, which is important because I can pick up on a lot of this stuff. And then we will work with a plan to get these buses fixed and back on the road. And trust me, the state police, as frustrated as they are just because there was some failures, they also realize that these roads have so much calcium and we should be doing undercoating. We realize that we have a huge fleet and 2 mechanics. Going all out is probably enough, but that's what needs to happen. They also have crowns in the roads. They also have many bumps and are not well maintained, so they understand why these things continue to fail. So that was the way I started my day today, helping out with that. Also today, we were over at the water inspection, finally, over at Somerset. So we had the person in charge of the whole project from the architect's perspective, Bowman, myself, somebody from Siemens who's going to monitor it, and also the person who put it together from Preble. So we fleshed it out and made sure that the low pressure, high pressure, all that worked. What we have to do now, unfortunately, is wait for main water to come back and, lo and behold, check the fact that it's either in place or that it meets what they need to do. But if you're not familiar, we could talk all night about this project, but basically what's happening right now is 10 gallons a minute of our water out of our well that is treated, and 10 gallons of water a minute from the town water is coming together and then going into that building to make the water quality better for consumption and also for all the parts and pieces that have been wearing out inside that. And so that project has been going on ad nauseum for 3 years now, and we are very close to being able to have that up and running. So that was an exciting part of the day. I will also say, of all the things that we deal with, we also have 51 homeless children in our community, and that, it seems like for me, that's a big number, and that's another one of those things that Stella and the special ed department tries to keep with clothing and food and everything else. But we hear about kids that are moving around, families that are moving around. We have 51 students that don't have homes at night, so that's just something that we can keep our eye on. And we do a great job in our schools to take care of those kids when we find them, but it's a pretty big number. And I would just say, this was an up and down year. It was very difficult on some levels for me personally, but our staff does a tremendous job and pulls together, and they were ready for a break, just like our kids are ready for a break, and we hope to refresh and recharge over the summer and be ready to rock and roll as soon as possible. So I appreciate everything that you guys do on a monthly basis, coming in and going through all your committee work, and doing all those things. I'm glad we wrapped up another year.
Any questions for Mike? I guess I have a question. These children that we have deemed homeless, what happens to them during the summer when school is not in session?
A good question. I can have follow up further with Stella. I assume she stays connected with that. Obviously, she's here working year-round, and those kids will pop in, they pop out. She would maintain connection with them because she works year-round. So I assume we can try to make connections and don't let go. And what happens is a lot of those times, what happens with those students is they may have a voucher and maybe in Augusta or someplace else, but when they see the voucher, maybe in Newport or one of their towns, they can come for a couple of days and stay like at one of our local motels. But then it's just a scramble to continue to keep them connected to the resources. But I'm sure she stays connected because she's with us here. Laura?
I was just going to add too, our food service department does prep meals and stuff for them. So we have some of those families that come once or twice a week and pick up meals that are prepped at the schools. There's different sites for them to come pick them up. So we have some like at our Scholastic that can do that.
Good. Anything else? Moving along, Mike took my thunder. I was going to introduce our 2 new board members and welcome
Thank you.
Anything that you have, any questions or whatever, you can reach out to Mike or me, email, phone, whatever. We're easy to get a hold of. And moving on to reports of special committee. Budget and finance, we did not have this month, so we will move on to building.
Building actually didn't happen either.
Oh, all right.
We were gonna get together, but we had too few people for a quorum, so we'll put that off, and then we can get everybody together to tour EDS's boiler room, then we'll get a good look at that
And
situation.
where you said that you did not have a quorum, just remember that it is terrible to drive all the way to the superintendent's office or Nokomis to go to a meeting and not have enough people. So if you could, either email or phone and let us know that you're not going to be able to be there. That way we can cancel a meeting and you don't have to show up. Just,
In that instance, if we're gonna, because like it was at 5 o'clock, which is impossible for us that work till 5 o'clock, so if it's possible, can we get
Yep.
more advance notice than a few days? Because I
or maybe
couldn't.
we can work on text message or something.
Yeah, that was, you're right.
I'll try to make sure it happens a little later.
What we're gonna try to do with that specific committee is we're gonna try to bring 3 representatives that work on boilers together, and sometimes later is harder for them, but we will try to give you a heads up.
And not necessarily, doesn't have to be later, but if I'd known about it like in advance,
Yep.
thank you.
Moving on to education, and there was no education meeting this month. So, policy, it looks like policy.
Policy committee met and we reviewed 2 policies. The first of which was graduation requirements at the request of Mary Netto, that we consider changing the graduation requirements from 2 years of world language to 1 year of world language. And I would make a motion, and this policy, I guess there's some urgency to it, and somehow there's a mechanism by which we could approve it for both first and second reading
Yes.
at this meeting. So I would make a motion that we accept the policy committee's recommendation to change the graduation requirements.
Second.
And just, well, I don't know if someone wants to,
We'll do first reading and then we'll do second reading. So this is the first reading.
what I was gonna say was, I don't know if someone else wants to explain it, but I guess that these requirements had just gone into place, but it turns out that it's a challenge to.
The reason why there is such an urgency is by the time we let this go through like we normally do, it would be at least 2 months, and the kids would start back to school, and they'd be forced into taking 2 languages, when in fact, if we change it, all they need is 1. So that was why the recommendation was to speed this along. We don't very often do it, once in a while, and this is one of those times where they would, administration would really like us to address this in a very short manner. Chet?
One of the many reasons for this was they are finding hard to replace language arts teachers and stuff, so, or world language.
Jeff?
If a student is looking to advance into a 4-year degree, they have to have 2 years. So my understanding is we would need to enhance that and not go backwards, but to try to find strong, adequate educators to come into our district, which I know is challenging, but I think bringing that back, and you know, if a freshman or sophomore decides they want to do it, and then all of a sudden, junior, senior year, they're in crunch time to get those 2 years in, thinking they only had to do 1, I I think that's setting a student up for failure in that aspect, and I'm not on board with this change.
So I know in policy committee, we did have a lengthy discussion. This is not a state requirement anymore for foreign language.
It never has been.
Right, so this is our requirement, not required by the state. I actually was in favor of getting rid of it as a requirement to graduate because we're having such a hard time filling those spots. I think we still have one position open, right, Mike? Foreign language. And I brought up the fact that these professors, these college students that are going to school to teach foreign language, I'm not sure that there's a big welcoming to the state of Maine where it's not a state mandated requirement for graduation. I understand what Jess is saying on that, her end of it too. There are online programs that count as high school credits. My son took one during middle school, actually. So that's my thought on it.
Mark?
What I was going to say was, this is not a move towards reducing the amount of world language that's available for the students to take. This, in some ways, it sounded like might alleviate more demand for the classes than we're capable of meeting, so that those kids who did have an interest in taking foreign language would still be able to. And she talked about having like a world language light for those kids whose, whatever their career path was, didn't require foreign languages. So it's not so much removing the program itself, but removing the requirement for students.
Jason?
Jess.
No, Jess.
I just have a hard time understanding why we would bring it back to one, because our anticipation is that we're preparing them for that next level through education. And if that next level is a 4-year degree to go on to something else, they have to have, in order to get into that college, a 2-year. So it doesn't change the student's aspect for the child that says, you know, I want to go to college, and they have that plan. It's still the same amount of kids that are going to want to sign up for those courses. So I'm not sure why we would need to deviate from this program that we have set in place right now.
So I see that, and I'm going to comment on that in a second. But from my perspective, one thing that it does alleviate is those that aren't going off to 4-year degrees aren't going to have to, and I'm not going to say waste, because that's not a waste of time, but it's not their focus. Now, it also, I had this personal experience with my daughter who had a rigorous requirements. And because of all the different requirements that we have, she did not have the availability within her schedule to get the one last math calculus, or get calculus in her schedule. So if we didn't have this one more requirement in here, it would allow some more flexibility in scheduling. Because I don't know about you, but I've seen the way they're scheduling things. It's difficult to schedule around all these requirements to get the classes that each kid needs for college. So it doesn't change the fact that if they want to go to a 4-year college, they can opt to take that 2nd year. It'll still be available. It just will not be required to graduate. And I'm all for that.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off what Jason said and try to clarify, because so our policy that's in place now is in order to graduate, every student has to have 2 years of foreign language in order to just get a high school diploma. So in the past, foreign language has been an elective for those students that are on a college path that colleges are looking for those 2 years of foreign language. So now we're in this bind where we can't possibly outfit every student that comes through these doors through 2 years of foreign language. I'm skeptical that we can even do it for 1 year, as is Mary, that we discussed at the meeting. So a few of us at the committee level would say even more so that this should not be required at all. There are so many options for students, and there are so many students that are not on a college path. The students that are on the college path should be guaranteed to get their 2 years of foreign language if it is not required for a high school diploma. So we tried to ask Mary, like, why this was brought about or if other districts are doing this. It hadn't really been researched, but I did research it. And so strangely enough, it doesn't appear that anyone around us is doing this other than I found it in Dexter and I found it in MCI. But our more comparable schools, Camden doesn't require it, Herman doesn't require it, Orono, Old Town. You know, I mean, I understand the thought process, perhaps we're trying to heighten the bar of, you know, expectations, but in reality, I feel like that's lowering the bar for a lot of kids to just get a high school diploma. I mean, students that are coming through and wanting to go to tech school or just enter the work program, this is a hardship. I mean, we have students that can barely pass English courses that they have to take for 4 years. And now we're saying in order to graduate, you have to have 2 years of foreign language. Even 1 year, I don't think is reasonable.
So a couple of things. One, I don't necessarily trust that the guidance department will make sure that that's made clear to the kiddos on the college path that they need the 2 years if we're not requiring it. And then second, what are the graduation requirements? So is this like is it a number of credits they need to have?
Yeah.
So is this lowering the number of credits that are required?
No.
Okay.
They still have to have a certain amount of credits, but there are also different, like 4 years of English and that kind of thing is built into that.
So the requirements are this.
Still 22.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chad?
I'd like to make an amendment to change the policy to 0 years.
A second.
There is an amendment on the floor. Any discussion on the amendment? There was a second. Hearing none? All those in favor of the amendment, which is to downgrade the requirement to 0? Those opposed? The amendment passes. So now the policy, the original will now be 0. There will not be a foreign language requirement. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? It passes. Mark, would you like to?
So, the second policy that we reviewed for first reading was the chemical hygiene policy, which I guess was very extensive, and Mike brought to us a simplified version, which maybe he can comment on. And then
Yeah, original one was 23 pages. It was very comprehensive and involved, and we really trying to get somebody from the high school or from our internal staff to actually kind of help and support our chemical hygiene plan. So I think by making it 5 pages, a little more easier to understand and a little more, hey, I can do this job, we may have somebody come forward from the high school science department, hopefully, and just because they understand the chemicals and those types of things, that this works in the right direction. But like as a first read, if there's any suggestions or you want more information, we can do that. But and this isn't as crucial as the one we just had. But we can work through this process. But it really is in hopes to get somebody who will just make sure that, you know, long story is a little bit, back in the day we had chemicals that, you know, were probably chemicals in terms of dangers, and we really eliminated those from schools in a lot of ways, but the ones that we still use, we need to make sure that the teachers understand and the students understand, you know, more about them, and that we eliminate and get rid of the stuff when we don't need it, and that's just kind of the way this plan works. And I think having it simpler will have somebody at the high school pick it up and help take care of it. Right now, I'm the chemical officer, and I really don't want it.
and I would make a motion that we accept for first reading the chemical hygiene.
Second.
There is a motion and a second on the floor to accept the policy committee's recommendation on this policy. All those in favor? Those opposed? Very good. We will visit that again.
And we have for second reading, 2 policies that we approved for first reading at the last board meeting. The first one being public participation at board and committee meetings. And I would make a motion that we accept for second reading, public participation at board and committee meetings.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and second on the floor to accept the public participation at school board committee meetings. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Those opposed? It passes.
And finally, bullying, which we also passed. Can we do both, bullying and bullying administrative procedures? I would make a motion that we accept for second reading bullying and bullying administrative procedures.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? It passes. Anything else from policy?
That's it.
Very good. Transportation.
Don't you still have to do a second reading on your,
We do them together.
oh,
We did, we did.
this is one first answer for me.
Transportation had no meeting, but as you heard, Mike's update on the buses.
Very good.
Tri-County, we met 2 weeks ago. Had a wonderful dinner. Sorry you missed it, Mike. Catered by the culinary arts facilitator and one of his select students. And basically had a wrap-up meeting, discussed the achievements of the year, which were many. And we affirmed the school calendar for the year, which we all go pretty much aligned with Tri-County, so that makes it the similar days. No real new business to speak of. We've submitted for 2 new programs. As we've talked about before, we've got the welding program that we're talking about facilitating here. And so we're waiting, the paperwork's into the state, we'll be waiting for that to be approved. And then we'll move forward when time permits.
Very good. Any questions for Jason or Mike on?
Jeff?
What's the other program?
You had to ask because it slipped my mind.
Okay.
Mike, can you remember what the other?
I almost think there's one that's environmental studies or something like that out of
Yes.
There's
Yeah, yeah.
a group that has some trails or some organization that's going to have a small program for kids that want to be in the outdoor rec or ed programming, I think. It's a small program.
Yes.
It offers some.
And it's going to be a satellite program like this up in, but it's a Jack.
Jackman or Green, but yeah. Could be Jack.
Good play.
And we did have 22 inductees to the Technical Honor Society. So.
And I think our fire student is competing right now.
Right now for
on
the
the
national.
Skills USA down in Louisiana.
Yep, on the national level. So quite a lot of great accomplishments as usual coming out of Tri-County.
Excellent.
Proud to have.
Any other questions? Moving on. Thank you very much. I see negotiations, the renaming committee and extracurricular ad hoc committee did not meet. Was there anything that you wanted to?
We're going to remove that renaming committee, I would assume.
Come on. You don't remove anything.
Yes.
It's up to you.
Make a motion to remove the ad hoc renaming committee.
Second.
Dissolve.
Disband.
Disband,
Unanimous consent.
whatever the word is.
Consent to
It's usually the chair that either puts them in or takes them out. That's all right.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Do I hear a second on that?
I second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? We do not have a renaming committee any longer.
Go. Congratulations, Jess.
I would say in the negotiations, we are trying to push the association to try to negotiate as early as possible next year, just because it's, isn't it all three? It's two. It's the support staff and the bus drivers, so we're going to try to just get that going as soon as possible.
Very good.
So, you know, I sent an email to I haven't heard back yet, but I said, come to the president, so if we hear about that, we'll keep it posted.
And extracurricular, they usually meet like 4 times a year for every sport season. So that will be a bit before we meet again on that. Old business, there's none. New business. Asset project and anticipated expenditures.
Yes, annually, Lori needs to present. Go ahead, Lori.
Good evening, everyone. The paper was in your packets for the preliminary allocations that we are hoping to receive for our Title 1, 2, 4, and 5. The total of those grants is $1,138,760.57. I've delineated the breakdown of what those preliminary allocations are in Titles 1, 2, 4, and 5. And then I broke it down into what we're proposing for the different titles. Our Title I staffing that is paid for with Title I funds historically comes to $850,804.12. And that includes paying a coach, 4 literacy specialists, 8 interventionists, full implementation of reading recovery in all of our elementary schools, Title I support in the elementary schools and the middle school. It's allowed us to fully implement coaching in all of the schools and ongoing professional development for interventionists. In order for us to maintain that full reading recovery implementation, that this affords us the professional development they need for us to maintain that level of service for the students. And then $5,000 for materials for the Title I programs, and we divide that up among the schools, and those are specific. Almost every bit of that goes towards new, more current books for students who receive Title I services. And the family engagement reservation is a mandatory set aside, so we set aside $10,000 a year. That encompasses the books that are sent home during the summer to our students receiving Title I. Homeschool connections, if there's any workshops or conferences that will support us continuing to work on our connections with families in the community, and all of those school events that happen throughout the year, the literacy nights, the STEAM events, those are all covered through these grants. And then for Kindergarten Jump Start, for those of you who are new to the board, we've been providing Kindergarten Jump Start for several years and typically had been covering that out of Title I. We have been able to cover that out of the ESSER grants, so there's less. That $1,000 just helps us maintain the current materials for Kindergarten Jump Start. But the plan is that that's already been approved in another grant, so that that will be offered again next summer. And we do a mandatory set aside to support homeless students. It's fairly minimal, and the reason behind this, we do have a number of homeless students, but the America Rescue Plan has given grants, so we have a lot of grant money to help support homeless students. You know, as Mr. Hammer stated, the biggest thing is knowing who those kiddos are and staying connected with their families. That is a number that if we didn't have those other grants, we would change that number in years that might be necessary. And then 4% of the Title I allocation can help pay for the ESSA coordinator to do all the duties and the compliance work that goes with working with all these titles. And then Title II, the principals have strongly asked for continuing to offer the core course and advanced course of responsive classroom. The ESSER, or the ARP grants are covering that for us this summer, and we did have it last summer. We have waiting lists of teachers. I couldn't even give them all a slot this year, and that's 60 teachers. And we filled them last year as well. So they come in and do in-district 4 days of training, and then they come back once teachers that had a couple of months to implement and give us actionable feedback about how our implementation is. So we're proposing that we would like to do that again next year because the wait list is so long. And then professional development, a good portion of that 134,000, well, about 65,000 of it is dedicated to professional credits. We have a lot of teachers who are taking advanced degrees, and this really helps support and supplement what the district puts into that. And then the materials, the 4,000 teachers and their administrators and coaches do a lot of book studies. If they see an area where we really would like to grow, this helps provide those books and supports the professional development for them to do that after school hours. And it is mandatory that as a coordinated Title II, it's mandatory to put, it has to come from 2 titles. So Title II is only, has to be a small percentage, but that's why that 3,000 is in there. And then Title V, we're hoping to continue our work with Great School Partnerships. They attend all the CSC meetings, support agenda development, and at every meeting they also provide professional development in a portion of that, at a portion of those meetings. So that we do in conjunction with the bar grant that Mary does as well, and it gives us a lot of really valuable professional development. And in order to maintain the levels of staffing that we have in Title I, I do recommend that we transfer, it's not as much this year, but transfer money from Title IV into Title I to maintain the level of staffing we have in our Title I programs, the coaching and the reading recovery. So, anybody have any questions? Chad?
I just wanted to say that, as usual, you are doing an outstanding job of handling these programs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the ESEA projects and anticipated expenditures.
Second.
We have a motion, second on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? It passes. Authorization for the superintendent to hire during summer months. So this is something that we've done for the last 3 or 4 years, and so we're looking for another motion.
Make a motion to authorize the superintendent to hire during the summer months.
Second.
There's a motion, second on the floor. Any discussion on that motion?
These come back to you as nominations at the end of the year, but it helps me get people on board. But you still have to formalize it with a nomination back in August.
Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? It passes. Certify results of referendum vote on June 13th for the budget.
Yeah, you
district budget.
can read this, and then somebody can post. Be it voted that the computation declaration of votes dated June 22nd, 2023, and attached here to approved, that the computation declaration of votes be entered upon the records of Regional School Unit 19, and that a certified copy of the computation declaration of vote be sent to each of the municipal clerks of the member municipalities within the Regional School Unit 19. And I will send this around, and please sign above your name. We have 2 copies. But that's the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Joe and I are very excited that we don't have to come back and have a whole district budget meeting and get a budget vote and.
We've
like
done that before.
More than 600 people come out and vote, so,
Hey, you're batting 1,000 since you've been here.
yeah, no, jinx that. Next year's not gonna be easy. Next year's gonna be tough. Okay.
Excuse me. All right, moving along. I don't think that we need you to read the entire list
Yeah.
unless you'd like to.
Just accept those, yeah. Just realize those, I've accepted those resignations.
And there is nothing that needs action. Yes, there should be.
Staff nominations need action.
Yeah.
All right, so
I have
staff
a question.
resignations.
I have a question. Bill Frudenberg,
Yep.
he's a current employee.
Yeah, he resigned.
He said he'd be back.
And he'll have a
He
disconnection.
retired.
Yeah, to retire or rehire, you've done it
Okay.
many times. Great. You just wonder what the advantage is, and I'm pretty sure there is. You can start accepting your retirement and then you.
Right, but I believe that the new job has to be slightly different.
No, this wasn't that bad. There was some, the first year they did this, there was some parameters that you couldn't be guaranteed a job, and that's not, you know, we don't give to you necessarily, but you have to have a separation of 30 days. There was a time when you could pay the person less, but you can't do that anymore. It's,
All right, so looking for we will not make him read all the resignations and the appointments and the transfers, but we do have to address the nominations. So at this time, I will accept motion.
Make a motion that we accept all the nominations as a block.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Jess?
I'm very happy that Bill's coming back because I love him. But just, I want to make a comment on staff resignations. Like, some of these are very upsetting, and I hope we did follow-ups to reasons as to why they're leaving us.
in their resignations, they clearly put that out there. I can tell you that they're moving closer to a home. They're moving closer to where their partner has a job, moving on to another job that's maybe higher paying, some of these things, but there is moving to be closer to a parent. One of them is moving back out west to bring a parent back over. One's going down to MDI to be with a parent who's sick. I mean, they all tell us, pretty much why they're getting done, and they have very specific reasons. And then some of these rehire nominations are, I went to school in Columbus and I was away for a while, this is where I want to be. And so they move back, as many as they move away for those very specific reasons. A lot of them apply for our job and come here for those very specific.
So out of curiosity, under the resignations, out of the 12 or there's more than that are listed, how many of those would you say are leaving because the money's better somewhere else?
That I know specifically, probably some of your custodians and one of your administrative positions. One's going back to Canada. I mean, like I said, it's not all of them are saying it's not because I'm making.
I'm just curious, because I know we have such a hard time coming to terms with budget reasons, but this is a long list of great and amazing educators, and if it's, I just want to put that out there so people that are watching this can understand how difficult it is to keep great people when you pay them minimally. So that needs to be said.
I hear you.
All right, back to nominations. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Very good. I do not see anything else. Oh, wait.
On that comment, I just wanted to double check with Corinne, because we've discussed this at negotiations before. So our district pays really well.
Pays really well.
Like, we are up there with,
Teachers,
yeah,
For
Teachers,
teachers,
yes.
yep.
right, the ed tech is a different story, and that.
custodians, I hear they,
Oh, even there, even with the ed techs, we're like number 26 out of 61 districts.
Right, but our teacher
Teachers
pay is actually, it's higher than many nearby districts, and if it's not higher, it's super comparable, so.
Yeah, you're both accurate.
Spend a lot of
And
money on
this
teachers.
list is something normal at this time every year.
Yep, every year.
Every year, and then we have a huge list of new hires come August. It's just how the cycle goes.
Future agenda items. Oh, I'm sorry, just a minute. I skipped over.
Transfers.
Transfers,
Right, we have the appointments.
we have assistant principal, that's Bassett Brown, Gretchen Lane.
Do I hear a motion to accept that position?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right.
Jason Mark.
Any discussion on that motion?
Coming from the middle school,
She's going from the middle school to,
very veteran, are we saving any money?
I mean, a little
I
bit.
didn't think so when I saw that name.
and the middle
In-
school
insurance.
is crying because Gretchen Lane.
She's right there.
Going to
I can tell you, I'm
that.
very excited because my kids are at the elementary school.
Is she going to replace Franny?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, so now,
Congrats.
there is a motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Congratulations, Gretchen.
Thank you.
Very good. Now, future agenda items. Is there anything? Yes?
I'm gonna speak to Paul because it's not on this, and he had brought up last time that he wanted to discuss interactions of male and females in the different sports. And honestly, I was kind of upset that it wasn't on here, considering this is the first time we're gonna meet before fall sports start, and I don't know if we have any of that that's gonna be brought, but we need to discuss that and make decisions on it before it hits on our doorstep.
So would you like to see that put into a committee, or you want it addressed at the board level?
I thought we were bringing it to the board because Paul had asked for it to be future, and I was just shocked it wasn't on here for us to discuss, so I don't know how that transpires, but
I don't know what you wanted to discuss. Maybe
Oh,
I'll-
I don't either, but
So,
it's
I think getting
there.
a policy in place.
There needs to be something.
Boys playing on girls' sports teams.
Okay. And locker rooms and all of the exciting things like that, we need to address that because it's coming. I hear the rumors in town, we need to review it.
So if it is all right with the board, we will put that right into policy committee, and we'll let everybody know when it's gonna be discussed, and then bring it to the board.
pretty sure we have a policy on that, and we
We do.
reviewed it.
I'd be happy to be on the policy committee if you want to change that to my number one. That'd be awesome.
What? I can't hear, what did you say?
I
said
heard her.
I would be happy to be on the policy committee if you want to change that to my number one.
Thank you very much.
I'll let the board chair know that.
Any other future agenda items?
Just a quick question, you think there's a policy already?
Yeah.
I believe we talked about this
Yeah,
a
we
couple
talked
of
about
years ago, but
Where do you access that?
On
Should be off the website.
RSU19.org.
All right, so it's
Go to
easily
district,
found.
Yep.
go to,
give yourself a little
drag
time.
down.
Well, yeah, no, I know.
It's not
Same,
user-friendly,
same
it's
with the
going
place
to
of
take you a
appointment,
minute.
yeah, I understand. I get it, yeah.
We're trying to make it more user-friendly. Anything else for future agenda items?
Maybe.
The next meeting will be in August. We will have the month of July off unless there's some emergency, but we're not anticipating it. So,
I go for committee meetings.
yep,
No
committee meetings
committees.
too.
No meetings.
So, unless anybody has anything else, good night.
Don't forget books. Books and a picture.